Hello everyone, this is the Tone Deaf Monk. Thank you very much for joining me on my channel. So today, talking about KZ DQS. This one I've had for 4 or 5 days, burned it in, if you believe in that or not, but I'd at least love to give it a chance best I could. The KZ earbuds, known for two things in my view. They're strange naming systems that don't seem to have any rhyme or reason, and if they do, comment, let me know, clue me in, because I can't figure it out. Secondly, their house sound, which was typically, and I've had one of theirs, and I can't remember the model I had before. I gave that one away. But it had a distinct V-shaped sound, fun, bassy, had highs, had lots of fun factor. And so I think KZ is trying to reinvent themselves, maybe a little bit, with the DQS. I picked this one up because I was told that maybe it's not exactly their typical house sound, and they wanted to experiment with a different sound and maybe appeal to a bunch of different audiences. This is fairly inexpensive. It's like $17, so it's not that much. So besides their naming system and their house sound signature, this is a DQS. Let's see if KZ went too far the other way. So fit and finish, the KZ, well, first of all, it looks pretty nifty. It's got this black metal plate with these kind of like a coppery gold insert. Not sure if there's actually some venting there. I don't know. It's a pretty big shell for a single 10mm dynamic driver. Still using the standard QDC connectors. Obviously they're pretty reliable, so they're going to continue using that. It's got a brass nozzle on the front, decent little screen. It does have this big wing right there, and I find that for me, in my ears, fitment wise, maybe not that comfortable. I can't, no matter what tips I have, I've tried longer tips, shorter tips, I just can't seem to find the right fit. So whatever this shell shape is, it doesn't work for my ears. So hopefully it works for yours. The typical fare in the packaging, white box, you know, some ear tips. What's new I haven't seen before is this kind of coppery, really thin cable, and actually it's quite nice. I put a different cable on it just for shits and grins, and I couldn't hear a difference between this one and a thicker copper cable, so obviously it does the job. Terminated, of course, 3.5 single-ended. There is no options for balanced unless you buy an aftermarket cable. But who is this really for? Is it for somebody that's going to super tweak, put it on 16 different sources, try, you know, a $40 ear tip, try a $100 cable? I don't think so. I don't think that's the point, and I don't think KZ thinks that's the point either. So without further ado, let's now jump into kind of some sound impressions. So I'm not going to go track by track. I will try to put my list of songs that I use, and there are a variety from different artists that I think gives an overall impression. My library, I could be jazz, I could be modern rock, I could be grunge, I could be techno, rap. Not that I listen to that much rap or hip hop. But in my track lists, it's over 3 hours, and I listen to this 36 songs. I love my female vocals. My preferred tuning, if you haven't seen one of my videos before, is more bassy, more on the warm side. Still have excellent extension in the highs, but not bright. I'm treble sensitive. I don't like a very sharp gain where the highs start to come up. And I like my sub bass over mid bass with a nice glide that gives excellent weight to vocals, male and female. So that's my preference. My preferred IEM of choice that I reference, that I love, is the Zen's Mangered Up, just for reference. So track list, lots of female vocals: Holly McNarland, MEB, the song It's Time by Labyrinth, Sia Diplo. That's a really hard one to do. Melissa Etheridge, Annie Lennox, and then in male vocals, Louis Armstrong, an older recording. I wanted to hear that too. Sting, Shaggy, Tragically Hip, and then instrumental and some jazz. I listened to some Jimmy Smith. I listened to some Pancho Sanchez. Piano, Hani Arani, very cool, and I talk about that a lot. Some Royal Philharmonic Orchestra playing some pop music. Anyway, moving on. And I'm going to now in my videos try to do timestamps so you can pass my ramblings or go to the point that you like. So, into sound impressions overall. Let's go back a second. So when I listen to IAMs to give you my impression, in these track lists and where specifically I'm listening for, I'm being super critical when I'm doing this. And then I kind of compose something altogether and write down my notes and compose my notes and give you my impression overall. This is an inexpensive IEM, the KZ DQS. It's not going to deserve a long video with super detailed how did it do per song. It's 17 bucks, and it sounds like it. Sorry. So microdynamics, macrodynamics, honestly, not. Vocal forward in the mix, so all the vocals sound more predominant in the mix. So let's talk about vocals, really. I mean, I love my vocals, and I love my female vocals. They sound dry and thin with the DQS. I don't think it has the right note weight. I think it's missing something. It feels like it's missing, sounds like it's missing something. Same thing. So I'm going to pull up a graph, and it'll put it on screen, and you can kind of understand, if you know how to read a little bit of a graph, why this thing sounds the way it does. But it's also kind of weird, because if we look at this graph, it has sub bass and it glides nicely into mid bass. That is theoretically my preferred tuning. Just doesn't sound that way. So again, it's probably it's an inexpensive driver, and it shows its weakness here. And bass guitars, again, where you would get that depth and the rumble of a bass guitar, it just doesn't get it, but it looks like it should, but it's missing it. And on Great White, the bass was somehow not the fastest. It was fun, it was musical, and again, that kind of plays into the overall DQS kind of sound signature. And this is a weird one where I kind of wrote down, definitely sounds smoother with power, but for $17 IM, are you going to put it on a desktop setup? I don't think so. You'll probably, whoever's buying this will probably just throw it on their phone if you still have a or an Abigail dongle or something like that, where you can just, you know, run it off your phone if you don't have a phone line out. So yeah, I mean, everything probably gets better with power. It got a little smoother. Same thing as sources. I mean, I'm really loath to mention some of these, and the fact that I'm fortunate enough to have different dongles and different AKM DACs and Cirrus Logic DACs and ESS DACs that I throw on. I don't think it's going to make a difference with this IAM, and I can't see you doing it when you're buying this. Stage, I would say this is well below average. There's no depth at all. I mean, in the songs like Metallica, where the S&M, where it's live, Tom Cochrane, also doing a symphony presentation, there's just no sense of spaciousness. It's just, everything is just right here in your head. And it just, there is no detail or resolution when it comes to instruments. Like, you don't hear like a pluck of this, or a guitar string, or a piano note, or none of that. So it's not really super detailed as well. Overall, in a nutshell, was that what KZ was going for? Were they trying to take a departure from KZ house sound and make something that was tuned differently with, you know, not a super V shape with a nice glide? I think they did that. They achieved that, if that's what they were going for with this driver. It's a very unoffensive tuning. So if you're buying this IAM and you're sticking it in your ears and whatever you play, I think it'll do whatever you play pretty good without complaint. I mean, I think that's a huge thumbs up for KZ on if that's what you were going for. And at $17, that's great. Or is it? We'll get into some comparisons later, but I just can't help thinking that I think KZ went too much the opposite way of their house tuning, and they neutered this DQS in a way where it plays everything, but it's not lively, it's not exciting. Trying to go for a balanced sound. I'm going to compare it to the Tooth Ear Ola. I'm going to compare it to the Kiwi Ears Cadenza, and I'm going to compare it to the Simgot EA500. Different price ranges, but different tunings as well. I think KZ is committed to trying to get better, and I think they're on the right path with this IAM. So just in overall impressions, you know, thin sounding vocals, male and female, limited stage, very compressed in your head. Bass is there, sub bass is there, but again, lacking speed and detail and decay where it would sound more natural. I'm not a fan of the vocals being, you know, more predominant in the mix than instrumental and bass. I find there's a lacking of a, well, if they're going for a balanced tuning, I don't think this is it in my definition of that. And I just think this is a $17 unoffensive, great first attempt. That's really sums it up. You know, they throw in a decent cable, they got you some basic tips, and you're good to start off. And for that, I think it's a pretty good shot because you're not going to be offended too much. Until you get something else to compare it to, and this is your first IAM, it's probably a good shot. It's not a bass head, it's not a treble head, and it just can play any pretty much library without too much, there's no harshness, no sibilance, there's no BA to do that. It's just a single dynamic driver. So let's move on to some sound comparisons with these three others and see how it fares against some others. Okay, let's get into some sound comparisons. First of all, I paid $17 for the DQS. These are Canadian prices. I was going to just put it as US prices, but I didn't. I paid Canadian prices, so we pay more. So I thought it was fair value to say, what I paid, and I think it's more of a frame of reference as well. So first up with the Truth Ear Ola at $19, again, single DD. It's got a nice shell to it that I really like. Really gorgeous small shell with just a little wing on it right there that I think even in smaller ears can wear this, where there's no way the DQS would fit in. Like, I asked my daughter if she would want to try it, and I looked at her ear and it's like, that thing is not gonna go. So versus the KZ DQS versus the Ola. The KZ screams on the its time. It was the one song on my playlist that I found it really shouty and immediately turn it down. The vocals on the Ola kill the DQS. It's just way more natural, balanced, has more weight to it. Male vocals have the heft, female vocals have the right tone, and I love my Melissa Etheridge with an edge to her voice, and it does it so much better. Staging so much more spacious than the KZ. The KZ was probably one of the worst I've heard in stage-wise. The Ola might have less bass quantity, but the quality was better, and the decay was better, and it was punchier. Okay? I'm going to pull up a graph as well, doing a comparison in a Ola versus the DQS, and you can see what I mean there. Again, the stage killed it over the DQS and the cadenza, and certainly in better dynamics. It's $19, so it's virtually the same price as the DQS. Yeah. Moving on to the cadenza. So this is now the Kiwi Ears cadenza, not the Let Shure Megabucks. This thing is $48 Canadian, 3 times the price of the DQS. Fun factor, yeah, way nicer, smoother. Wow. Better note weight. Tracy Chapman sounded correct. It didn't sound correct on the DQS. And I like mine a little bit warmer. The cadenza played it. I just find it's more pleasing to my ear having a replay that wasn't so shouty or forward in the mix. I like my bass, and the cadenza has more bass, better quality, better quantity, and more of it. Better details. You could actually now hear dynamics. There was a piano going on, there was something going on over here, and it brought that out into the mix, where the DQS I found didn't do that. Same as the treble extension. I just found that the cadenza had better treble and better quality and quantity again, and certainly a bigger stage than the DQS. So at 3 times the price, is it worth it? Yeah, I still think the cadenza would be worth, if that's what you were looking for. The EA 500, the SIMGOT that I am enamored with, Canadian, it's $119. This one I got from SIMGOT, and I'm buying a second one because I've modded my first one with the vent. Anyway, it's a different video. It's 7 times the price of the DQS. Is it fair? No, but it gives me a frame of reference to listen to the DQS and what it does and what it doesn't. I mean, the EA 500 is in a different universe, literally, than the DQS. DQS you're going to buy as your first IAM and get introduction to kind of a more neutral, balanced, inexpensive IAM if you don't buy the OLA, which you should over the DQS, honestly. The EA 500 has a phenomenal stage. The bass is, again, snappy. I don't know what dynamic driver they're using in the EA 500, but I love it. It's musical and snappy, and when I did the mod, it then had some serious sub-bass extension. But I didn't need it. I loved it the way it was. Vocals, man, are true in a single DD, same as the other ones, but you get a frame of reference of what it sounds like. Image separation, details, I mean, it is, again, a universe different than the two at 7 times the price. And the dynamics. So in a dynamics, if you don't know what I mean by that, I mean in a passage where, like Flim and the BBs, where it starts off quiet and then it hits this huge dynamic and it makes you put a grin on your face. And if the artist or their producer or the live replay that you heard did that for you, and if it doesn't in the replay of the IM you're listening to, warning signs. And the DQS didn't do any of that, where the EA 500 does it in spades. So I wanted to share that with you, just as, for me, what's on my table or what I had here as a frame of reference. They're different price brackets, 17 to 120 bucks. But again, are you buying the DQS as your first IAM to start up? I don't know. You could be. But again, I'm going to just finish this video that if you were buying a DQS, I might seriously take a look at the OLA versus that one instead. Smaller size, shell is very nice. Overall sound is just smoother, wider, has a nicer stage. This is the Tone Deaf Monk. Thank you very much, everyone, for liking and subscribing my videos. I'm going to try a new format here and try to put a little bit more context into my videos, and I really appreciate you watching. So thanks for now, and Tone Deaf Monk out.